Praise be to Jesus and Mary. You're listening to Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World, a podcast hosted by Holly and Mandy. Let's begin our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our podcast, Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy, and we're happy to be back this week, joining you here on the Catholic Family Podcast. We'll begin our episode by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So, so my mom and I was going to say happy to be back, but I've said that 2 times now. So
try not to repeat yourself, Holly.
We did. I got new microphones, so we got.
You know what? I think you couldn't be outdone by Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin got a new mic, so I had to get a new mic.
But keeping up with the Davises.
Keeping up with the Davises. Well, I only say that just because I hope everything goes well. Like, you know, when you're using something for the very first time, like we did test them, but you know, this podcast is an hour long and anything can happen in there. And I don't know, this is a different type of mic than I've ever used before, the lapel mics, because I was tired of being confined by wires to the laptop. So I don't know how they're going to pick up, like, say if I scratch my shoulder or something, or if I like
cough.
Yeah, my mom's worried about her coughing. So all this to say, please bear with us.
Right.
Now, the other thing I thought about with the lapel mic, it's right here on your chest area, like below your collarbone.
Yeah.
How does it not pick up like your like breathing and your heartbeat and stuff?
I don't know.
I
do some heavy breathing too. I've
noticed.
noticed.
So hopefully when we listen to this back, my mom's not like Darth Vader. You know? Anyways, we'll get into it, and I wanted to put that little PSA out there.
Sure.
So so we're almost through July now, and we'll be moving into August soon, month of the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Yeah.
And so anything we want to reach out?
I do want to, because
we had something too.
Oh, what do you want?
No, you go first.
Okay.
I cut you off. Bad manners.
Bad manners. I was driving. We had altar boy practice at the church today, so your son went, and my nephew,
my nephew,
your nephew, my grandson, and I also took my son there. So I was driving, and then, long story about roundabout, but I had Ava. I ended up driving him off, picking up Ava to go get rid of rocks and all this.
Ava's my daughter.
Ava's her daughter.
Don't know.
No, she's not your daughter. She's Mandy's granddaughter.
Oh yeah, that's all I've heard about is how popular my mother is, and apparently I'm chopped liver. No, I'm just teasing. Totally just teasing.
Well, this is what this story is about.
Oh, okay. There's a story. Okay.
So we're driving down the road. We're driving, and she's telling me, because she was in Omaha having the time of her life.
Well, I'll tell you. I picked her up. Sisters got back at around like 11:30 at night, Saturday night. And I got out of the car and I went up to her to give her this big hug. And I'm like, oh, Ava, I've missed you. And you know what the first thing she said to me was? Mm-hmm. I am totally going back next year. I said, wow, I've missed you, I said.
That was like when I sent my son when he was young. He was really young too, maybe 8.
Yeah, she was gone for 21 days.
I know, she was gone for 3 weeks. He wasn't gone for 3 weeks, but it was the same thing. My cousin took him to camp in Omaha, boys camp. And when he, and back then in the day, there wasn't cell phones. I put him in a car and I said goodbye, and that was the end of it till he came home, right?
Right.
And I said to my cousin, did he miss me? And my cousin laughed and goes, no, not for a second. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, fine. Just don't soften the blow or anything.
Right, they have such a good time. I mean, maybe there are really introvertish people who might not.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I mean, you grew up in girls' camp.
I grew up going to the convent in the summers.
Yeah, and it was like the time of your life. And we actually, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we actually had to force Ava to go.
Yes, I did. I had to. Not for. Yeah. Well, no, I did have to say.
You had to force her.
You're going. You're doing this. She cried.
Yeah.
And I think she cried not because but I think she got scared.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're going for 3 weeks.
And,
she's never been away from me.
She's never been away like that on her own.
No, never.
Yeah.
Not ever.
So
the most my husband and I have ever gone away is for like maybe 4 days or something, 4 or 5 days.
Right.
And actually, I don't even think we've done that.
I was going to say, when have you done this?
Yeah.
The only time I remember.
Maybe 2 days then. Maybe
I remember you going with your sister-in-law, and I babysat Dougie for overnight, and he was like 7 months.
Yeah.
But
why do I feel like I've gone? Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, so she's, yap, talkity talk about camp nonstop. So loved it. So she says she's in there. We're driving there, and again, we're still talking about camp, and she's talking about making these nun dolls.
Right.
And she says to me, she said, oh, these, we're making these nun dolls, and I guess. Because they were learning about Mother Cabrini,
yeah,
right.
That was their saint.
And she went to camp with a girl from our parish named Olivia, and we don't really know them that well because they're brand new to our parish. And they've been coming for a while, but they go to a different mass time than we do, so we don't actually see them. And she made just a stellar friend with this girl.
Yeah.
So they just love each other, and that was great too. And anyway, so she's telling me, she says that Olivia says to her, she said, yeah, I really want to see this movie.
Oh, yeah, she did tell me this, yeah.
Yeah, and she said, but, then I was watching this interview on the Catholic Family Podcast, which wasn't it was the Catholic Wire.
It was Catholic Wire, yeah.
Yeah, she said where this woman was there and this priest, and they were talking about how bad the movie was. And she said, it was really good, this interview, and Ava goes, that was Mandy.
Yeah, well, because I think we said this last episode, but people kept coming up to Ava in Omaha and going, Mandy's your grandmother? Mandy is your grandmother Mandy, And so Ava was like, everybody's asking her if her grandmother's Mandy, and Ava's like, yes, my grandmother's Mandy. And so this girl, Olivia, that she was with was like, who is your grandmother, and why is everybody so interested in her?
So, yeah, well, anyway, so Olivia goes, that is Mandy? like that woman goes to our parish? It blew her mind
that,
away, right?
Here you go to the same parish, and she didn't even know she watched you on.
But what I was thinking about that, and this is not to be prideful about this, or to have a puffed up head.
Right.
But I was thinking in my head, Ava was so in awe or in love that she could say that's her grandmother.
Right.
And what I said to her, I said, yeah, it's almost like you were famous down there. And she goes, yeah, she was loving it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this a little tongue in cheek, I don't care about it.
Well, and just for a little bit of context though.
Yeah.
My daughter has not had an easy go of things.
Right.
She doesn't have a lot of friends. She's very kind of introverted socially, but then if you put her on a stage, she's like, oh, so it's a very weird thing.
But
for her
anyway,
to have that little boost.
Right. But I thought, and I said to her, this is what I said to her, because I thought, oh, this is a teaching moment. Don't waste your teaching moment. Right. So I said to her, I said, well, I said, Ava, I said, it's really, because I said to her, I said, oh, it's like being, like you have a movie star back at home, She goes, yeah, it totally is. Right. And she said, I said, let me tell you about the church. I said, you have all these talents, and God gives you all these talents. And I said, and if you use them for God, and if you show them for God, I said, you get to be kind of a hero. I said, and you know what happens if you go to the world? Because I said, I know people who had great talents, and they used them for the church, and people, really admired them and really loved them. Yeah. And then they fell away. Yeah. And then they tried to use these talents
for the world. And it just didn't stick.
I said, you know what happens, Ava? I said, you go from hero to zero in a heartbeat.
You drown, basically.
You drown.
You're lost.
Yeah.
You can't compete.
And I said, so remember that. I said, remember that. I said, you use your talents for God. And, and obviously I have a gift of the gab.
Okay. I'd like to say something though,
What?
because this really agitates me.
What?
Because she said to me today, she found this. I was letting her, because she's 15, and she wants to get a little bit of independence, and she wants to go on the computer and email the girls that she met at camp and
Right.
whatever. And she likes she does perler beads and wanted to look up things on Pinterest. So I created her little Pinterest account. It's completely monitored. I can see everything she does. And so she found this meme though on Pinterest, and it was Trump and the leader from China. What I can never pronounce it. Kim Jong-il, whatever his name
Oh,
is.
not Korea, you mean?
Korea, sorry.
Kim Jong-un?
Kim Jong, whatever. I can't say his name right. Anyways.
Yeah, we don't speak foreign language as well.
So anyway, so it's him, and they're there, and they're making their faces, and you would have to see their faces to get the real. But basically, it said so Kim Jong-il, Young, whatever, is supposed to represent the teenager.
Yeah.
And Trump is supposed to be the parent.
Right.
It says, I tried to tell my mom this funny story, yet somehow she turned it into a lecture. Remind myself not to tell my mom funny stories.
Well, that's true.
And she was like, and it's funny because it's true, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And she was showing me this because she's like, Mom, that is so you. I try to tell you something funny, and you use it as an opportunity to turn it into a life learning moment. But then I thought about it. I thought, that is not fair, because I do that to an extent, but I want to say, your grandmother does that too. Every time she tells you something, you're like, I'm going to tell you something about that, Ava.
Right, but well, what
anyway, so that was just a little funny about that.
No, it's true though. It's true. But what
true.
I wanted to say, I want to tell people out there, right? We need to become heroes.
Yeah.
Well,
and if I can just say one more thing about that too, though, that's where those life lessons work, though.
Right.
That's how they work, because your child comes to you and they say something, and then you just use that small opportunity to turn it into something that they'll remember. Those are the moments I remember from my childhood.
Yeah.
Those are the life lessons I remember, not when your parents come harping on you.
Right.
And they come to you and they just,
yeah.
It's when they come to you, when your kids come to you.
Absolutely.
And they're open and ready. That's when you use those moments.
That's when you wiggle your way in there.
Yeah.
But
anyway, sorry. Back.
No, but the thing is to encourage people, right?
Yeah,
obviously, not everybody has the gift of the gab.
Is it a gift?
Yeah, sometimes it's
it can be a detriment, and I'm saying that for myself too.
Oh,
sometimes you're like,
she's still talking. She should have stopped a long time ago.
And it's funny when you're in a group and you're talking. In my head sometimes like, why are you still talking? Stop talking. But I can't stop myself. And in my brain I'm going, stop talking, Holly. You need to stop now. But I can't seem to find a way to wrap it up.
Right. No, but you can do anything.
You can. Yeah.
You can. I'm sure. I'm sure the Davises get the same. Mm-hmm. Your grandmother's Lisa Davis?
Yeah, yeah.
Kevin Davis?
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm
sure. And and this is not to be both, but we live in an age where, and you don't have to go on the internet to be these people.
No, you can do it with your own people around you.
And you can do it within your own church, your own community. This is what my mother would do.
Yeah.
But they have to see you. The children must see you living the faith and using whatever it is you have for the greater glorification of God. Whether that's, planting the peonies at the church.
Yeah, and
doing it with love and reverence.
And that starts with valuing your church and your parish.
Right.
And making your parish, wherever you are, making your parish the center of your life. Mm-hmm. I got to go to the church. I got to clean the church. Some people may have clean. I'm just using examples from my own life. I got to do the flowers for the altar this week. I got to take my turn doing the altar flowers. Mm-hmm. I've got to sing in the choir. I've got to sign my kids up for the Tarcisians Club or
or the girls' camp.
The girls' camps. Do these things. Get involved and make sure
and then
you create that parish life.
And then they can see that my parents do everything for the greater glorification of God.
And that's going to segue into what I wanted to talk about, because I'm going to give a little shout out. I was on the SETI Mom group, Facebook group, and I saw a post from a lady who had said that her daughters had started a YouTube channel for Catholic teens.
Right.
And I can't remember the name of it. Teens in Faith. I'll link it. I'll link it in the description. I'll link their YouTube channel in our description here. But they started this. They just put out one quick little 9-minute episode saying what their channel is going to be and what And I was listening to it, and I really kind of found myself like they're teenagers, but I found myself connecting to them because they said they're from mission parishes.
Mm-hmm.
So and the one girl said that she comes from a mission parish. There's about 30 parishioners, and I thought, go because that's what I grew up in.
Right.
30 parishioners, mission parish, priests flying in, priests flying out, but priests flying in, priests flying out.
Yeah.
No real parish community. I'm saying that in air quotes per se.
Yeah.
What I told them when I commented on their video was, I grew up in the same situation, but my mom and another lady from our parish, the only two families with young kids, this other mother, they made sure that we didn't feel that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Never felt like I can't speak for my siblings and the other family, but me personally, I can tell you without a doubt, I never felt like a mission parish.
Yeah.
Never. We had bazaars, we had girls' camp, we had, we did the things. We made Advent wreaths. My mom and this other mother always made sure that we were so involved and we were the parish.
Yeah.
And if you're a mission and you have somebody in your parish, a mother or family or whoever that is willing to do that for you, you won't feel the weight. You won't feel the weight.
Right.
Of that you're quote unquote just a mission.
Right.
And I applaud these girls for doing this podcast because, and I mean, I hope they stick with it and many prayers for your success because I do think that this is something that will be helpful for teens.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. And I think as and teenagers, they're coming into their own. They're going to have to learn how to become adults and
right.
And I think this could be a good thing for them.
Right.
To and I feel like if these girls are from this mission parish, it's good for them to connect them to other teens in their in the Catholic circles, So I will. I hope maybe one day they'll have me on.
Right.
To discuss about that. I'd love to come on and be on their podcast. So.
Sure.
My mom's like, why'd you say sure like that?
Did I say sure like that?
No, you really, you were like, sure.
No, sure. Speaking of that, right?
What's your tone?
I tried to deactivate my Facebook the other day.
I know, I saw.
You saw that people are like,
she can't figure this out.
Don't leave. Don't leave. I'm like, oh, wow, why you do that to me? No, I don't, I don't, to be truthful, I was going to deactivate it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what God always does to me.
Yeah.
Right before I want to deactivate my Facebook account, somebody out of left field
finds you and
contacts me and wants help.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't leave now because
I leave this person.
They
need me.
They're reading what I write, which I don't actually post, not compared to what I did in the past. I don't actually do a lot of posting on Facebook. But, and I'm thinking, and then I thought, and then I kind of talked myself, well, they can email me or they can do other things. And I mean, there's other reasons for having Facebook, like Facebook Marketplace, and there's a few other things and Messenger and all this stuff. And then I was like, okay, you talked me into it, all of 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. But also our good friend Phyllis, she private messaged me.
Oh, was she mad?
No. Well, she's like, don't go. What are you?
But anyway, was not mad, but I mean, was she like begging you to stay?
No, she wasn't begging me. She actually showed me how to deactivate.
I'm talking to you, Phyllis, while I'm having this. I'm not talking about you. I'm like literally want to know what you're on about.
Well, anyway.
We love you, Phyllis.
So anyway, so she sends me, she says, oh, I can just hear Holly. Mom, it's right there. And I said, that's exactly what she would say in her exact voice. How did you know
right, though? That's right. Okay, Phyllis, that is hilarious.
Yeah, so that was kind of funny. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, be the upstanding members of your parish.
Yeah.
So that, you can be the heroes.
Yeah.
And that you're showing forth that everything you do is for the glorification of God.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? At the end of the day, if that is really where, well, I mean, God knows where your heart is. God knows where your mind is. He knows where your soul is and where you're directing things. And that's all that matters. So really, honestly, I mean, if you're legitly doing things for the greater honor and glory of God, quite honestly, what other people think doesn't matter.
No, I know.
Because what matters is what's between you and our Lord. And if you get gratification here on earth, fine. But if that's not what you're after,
yeah,
and you're, God knows that.
I'm just gonna point out about the gratification. I said, when you take these high roads,
yeah,
that I have taken over the last many 30 years, I make a lot of enemies too.
Yeah.
I do make a lot of enemies. It's you either love me or you hate me kind of situation.
I mean, well, I do give my mom kudos for that, because she'll say something on Facebook and I'll be over there, I feel like I have the right thing to say to this person, but should I say that? Should I not? And you go back and forth and you're like, I can't do it. But my mom's just like, no, well, what it is, it's called being real.
Yeah.
It's called being a realist,
Yeah.
And so sometimes you do make enemies that way.
Sometimes I make a lot.
Well, but
I don't know, when you're working for God.
When you're working for God, I mean, do you not
much.
think the saints? I'm not saying I'm just
I
saying.
get it.
Do you not think the saints had enemies?
They had
They had enemies everywhere they went.
Right.
At every turn. I always use this example because I just, there was a nun in St. Bernadette's convent that couldn't stand her.
Right.
But what she was doing for the greater glorification of God, and that's that, know.
So, it's stay and
Stay
well,
the
there
course.
used to be I had a sign in my son's room. We used to pull out the Feast of the Epiphany, our sayings.
Yeah.
And he picked this saying, and he was a teenager. And these are the little things I used to do. Like I was always trying to drive messages home, right? And it said that about seeking the will of God and to always do the will of God. And the way you find what the will of God is to obey the 10 Commandments. Right. So, and I wrote this on a big
Bristol board?
Yeah, and I said and I hung it right, here it is, right above your bed, And he said, I asked him years later, I said, did you ever read that? He said, every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of giant Bristol board, I did see on Facebook, I won't mention names, but somebody who listened to our podcast wrote out order.
Yeah.
And took a picture of it, and it wasn't, I just happened to come across it. It wasn't for any, gratification or anything. It just, I saw it and I was like, wow. And it's kind of like, you see that and you're like, I don't know, you just feel like
you've done something.
You've done something that day, for lack of a better word. And it's just like, I'm glad that, people
Father
do
and
find
I
this
did
helpful.
something.
Well, yeah, no, not me. No, I'm not.
We just relayed.
I just relayed the information. That's why I'm glad to actually see it being put out in practice, because when he said that, I was like, everybody needs to hear this. It's so good.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see
right
it being put out there, so that's all.
I think we'll title this podcast, Be a Hero, Not a Zero.
Be a hero, not a zero. Okay.
You want...
Maybe. Well, normally we talk about that after the podcast, but okay, we'll talk about it during. But okay, just so you ladies have a little bit of context. We end the podcast, we, say our goodbyes, push the end button, and then I always look, okay, what are we going to call this podcast? And then me and my mom sit there for a good, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes. Sometimes I feel like it drags on forever, and I'm like, Mom, just give me a title, please. And then we go back and forth. Because
was there anything relevant?
Is there anything relevant? I will tell you, ladies, coming up with titles is very hard because we feel a lot of pressure to not lead you astray. I'm not a fan of clickbait at all.
Yeah.
But I want to take one good thing from the podcast and make it the point,
Yeah. which is really hard.
It's hard to do after you've been talking
And
for an
also,
hour.
too, I just out of curiosity, the titles, I don't know if we've said this before, the titles that are more secular
get more views.
get way more views.
But I don't like them.
But
I told my mom that a long time ago. I'm like, I'm not, because I'm not doing this for the views.
Yeah.
You know, so I could care. I want it to reach as many people as it can, obviously, but I prefer the titles that are centered around our Lord.
Right.
Or like the Catholic faith in general. It doesn't have to specifically be our Lord, but the titles that give greater honor and glory to God.
So I don't know why that is. I don't know if maybe that particular like
I'm not completely against them. I mean, don't get me wrong. I will still call this one "Be a Hero, Not a Zero," you know, just to suit my mom. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally just kidding.
And if you've listened to the podcast, you will know what that means.
You'll know what that means. So, and then if by the end of this, if it's called something else, you'll know we changed our minds. But anyways, are we going to go dive into our book here and see? We always wait so long and then we don't get very much of our book in. But so, ladies, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
I don't want to exclude anybody. We are still on this one section of manners among ourselves. I think we've been on this section
a couple things. We talked about this book at our
confraternity meeting.
Our confraternity meeting, and Father would like us to.
Yes, so I'm going to scan it and get that done because.
And also,
I said I would do that.
My niece Katie also would like it copy because what she wants to do is she wants to dummy it down for children.
Yes.
Take all this, the info in it and dummy it down. She teaches at our school, so that would be good and handy.
Okay, so let's jump right in here. So again, this book is a Handbook of Good Manners from the Motherhouse of the Sisters of Charity. Quote, "Some sisters have a way of creating what they think is fun by teasing another sister about some personal trait or peculiarity.
Yeah.
Such actions are far from what courtesy requires because they show a great lack of consideration for the feelings of others. It is all the more ill-bred if a younger sister treats an older one or an official in this way." End quote. So there's a little bit of jousting. Jousting.
Yeah, I'm not a
jesting,
fan.
Not jousting. What's the word? Jesting.
I don't know.
To jest somebody.
I'm not a fan ever.
We're not a fan, but we do it a lot in our family. And okay.
I never do it.
I will exclude my mom from that. I would give her that one. But what I will say, and I'm not trying to make excuses because I know it's a predominant fault, and I try really hard not to. But I have two sisters.
Yes.
I have a brother, and I have one particular uncle.
Yes.
That's really, and we grew up. And that was the dynamic.
Yeah.
To jest each other and to do that little bit of jab and then, and it was but it doesn't make it right. I'm not,
No, sometimes.
It's not right. And I'm not sitting here justifying because it's not right.
Right.
But what I will say, it's very hard to stop. So maybe that is something that I should lean on the Holy Ghost for,
because one person particularly loves the digs.
Yeah, the digs.
It's almost like they're digs, right?
Yeah.
But you're saying them kind of funny.
Yeah.
We don't.
I'll tell you why it's very hard to stop. It comes from a place of pride. And I'm being completely honest when I say this too for myself. It comes from a place of pride and that predominant fault of pride that where, you jest somebody and you're in a group of people, your family, whoever, you jest them and everybody laughs.
Yes.
And then you're like, man, I'm so funny.
We are.
What I mean? And it's like.
And we are witty people.
We are very, very witty, very
quick. Yeah.
So it is very hard to not seek that.
Yeah.
The gratification from that. Yeah. That I can make my whole family howl with laughter.
Yeah.
And it's not an evil thing. But it's not virtuous.
It's not virtuous, right?
It's not evil in the way that you're going to go out and murder somebody. It's not a capital sin, but it's just not virtuous.
And sometimes the thing about it is, say you have a big nose.
Yeah.
Right? And people are always like, your nose is the butt of
digging you about your nose,
right? And or your ears or
whatever,
or the color of your hair. I'm a redhead.
Yeah.
I was once upon a time anyway.
Yeah.
But and sometimes what happens is people can be, oh yeah, it's funny, who cares? I got red hair.
Mm-hmm.
But you could hit somebody on the wrong day.
Right.
And they're feeling down, or they're feeling sensitive, or like sometimes you're just emotional. I don't know.
Well, and then too, the other side of the coin too is that you have to also think about the example that you're setting.
Yes.
For your children.
Because kids are not very bright.
No. And then so, I may just my sister say.
Yeah.
And then my daughter tries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
You can't talk to Aunt Heather like that, And then I'm like, but how can I even say that?
Yes.
When I'm doing it.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? So we have to, and I mean, this is something that when I read these things, I always want to try, to get something out of this just as much as everybody else.
Right,
so,
right. I mean, so we have to have this kind and tenderness, and,
tenderness, that's a good word.
It's
gentle tenderness,
it's
kindness.
much nicer, just,
to all be pleasant and happy
all
and
to
polite.
be pleasant and polite, and not to do, and a lot of sarcasm is in that.
Sarcasm.
A lot of time. And sarcasm, if you look up the definition of sarcasm,
it's not good.
It's not good. I don't have it in front of me, but it definitely is a vice.
Well, yeah, it's not anything that should be encouraged or act like it's a good thing.
And we've had on the television, like, our television is full of sarcasm.
Because, here, I looked it up for you. Sarcasm. The use of irony to mock or convey contempt.
Yeah.
Mock, contempt.
Yeah.
Those are two very bad words.
Right, right, right.
You know what I mean? Like, so,
or say, like, I'm trying to think of, like, say somebody's kind of lazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And they say something and you make a
sarcastic remark.
Yeah. Like you're picking out their faults and you're mocking them.
And you're airing it.
And you're airing
it for everybody.
Yeah. Something like that. So.
Yeah, very, very, very good info there. Okay, quote. Refrain from examining the papers, etc., on another sister's desk and from going to her washstand, cupboard, locker, or community drawer without her permission. Neither should you borrow anything that belongs to her without her approval, end quote.
Right. So,
allow people's papers.
Allow people their privacy.
Yeah.
Don't lean over. I mean, in our day and age, don't lean over their
while someone's sitting on their phone and you're like, oh, what are you doing
or
there?
Their computer, or
I mean, yeah.
Opening mail that doesn't belong to you, or
well, that's a felony.
Yeah. But respect.
I'll never forget the first time I heard that. Opening someone's mail is a felony? Like, I was a little kid, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, I can go to jail for that?
And sometimes, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm pretty much an open book myself. But other people are not so open bookish. Mm-hmm. And so, if somebody say, why you got that? I say, because I do. Yeah. Like, move along. But other people may be sensitive.
They might get all...
Yeah.
Like, why you ask me? Like, they can't handle that.
They can't handle. So you're.
It's just another instance where you should just be considerate of other people's privacy.
Yeah.
You're not privy to everything.
Right.
Okay, quote, never read letters or private papers belonging to another sister unless it's your duty to do so or you have her permission. It is extremely impolite to look over the shoulder to see what another is writing or reading, end quote. So basically, pretty much just ties in, following up what we just said.
But, like, and I would say, like, reading over the, like, I know there are a lot of over the shoulder goes on with the cell phone.
Yeah.
With, but, like, even if you were reading, you're just reading, like, and you say you're reading this, The Wind in the Willows or something, right? You're just a book you're reading and somebody comes over, what are you reading? They're hanging over your shoulder.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
It's impolite.
It's
just impolite. It has nothing to do with what you're reading.
Yeah. It's just
impolite. Like you've encroached on somebody's space.
I mean, I'm wondering if the book will maybe mention that in here, but that's another thing.
What?
Personal space.
Personal space. Like don't get in people's space bubbles.
People's space bubbles.
Yeah.
I mean, is that a new age thing? Maybe I'm going too far.
I don't know. I didn't read it. Well, I haven't read
that yet.
But it is true.
But I do feel like very like it's not
allow
that
people
it's not
their
that
space.
I don't like people. It's just, I don't need that closeness. You know what
well,
I mean?
I mean,
I don't need that.
Yeah,
I certainly would never, like, I've had people stand very close to me, and I don't get all wacko about it.
Yeah.
But it does kind of put me a little on, like, you're really close to me.
Yeah, I don't get close to other people.
Like, I purposely don't get close to other people.
You keep a step, like one car length apart.
You keep that polite distance.
You keep a polite distance, you know, so.
Okay, quote, when handing money, stamps, small papers, or keys to another person, enclose them in an envelope.
Yeah, I read that.
Quote.
I know.
Okay, you're going to have to, what's the point there?
Well, I just think it's polite.
Polite privacy?
Like, so, like it's, here's your money,
I hope the mic picked that up.
I just grabbed some
stuff. Just grabbed a bunch of plastic and just threw them across.
And, like if you're handing something, I owe you here, don't mind, it's all in toonies. And you're dropping it on them and you're like, yeah, sure, no problem. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thanks for throwing all your change.
I think, I mean, this is for nuns, right?
I think too, it's probably a point of consideration that you don't just walk up to, just laughing because I can't stop thinking about it. But you just don't walk up to somebody and drop a bunch of change in their lap. And then they got to figure out, what am I going to do with all this change? It's consideration to give them a nice envelope.
Or stamps, right? Here's your stamps, and you know how big a stamp is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how often somebody has handed me something. Go, here, this is this.
And then I lose it.
No, and I'm like, okay, don't give this to me right now.
Right.
Because I'm a little absent-minded
right now, where I'm busy thinking about other things.
I'm always busy thinking about it. I mean, if people handed me with stuff in an envelope, it would be very much appreciated.
Right.
I mean, car keys seems a little weird.
Thing. Yeah, maybe.
But
if you're giving them keys to go somewhere, like, here's the key to this house you have to go visit or something, I get it.
But I don't know how many times people have handed me something, and I'm not actually prepared to take it.
Yeah.
So I shove it somewhere to think about it later, or to look after it. I think it's just general manners.
Right. Okay, quote, use the right hand for giving or receiving what is being passed. End quote. You got something special you want to say about that?
No.
Use the right hand.
I don't have anything special to say about it, except for if everybody uses the same hand. Like, so if I come up to you and hand you something, you've seen the slop, slop, slop with the hands. Yeah. Like, I don't know, I'm putting out the wrong hand, or I'm like, you know how you shake somebody's hand?
Oh, okay. So
right,
it's just
so
not literally your right hand, but just use the right hand.
No,
so if you hand me something.
So if, you hand me with your right hand.
Yeah.
And I take it with my right hand.
Oh, yeah. But what if you're left-handed? Wouldn't that be weird?
Yeah, I guess I don't know about that. I don't know.
I'm not left-handed, so I don't know.
Me either. But what I'm saying is, they're trying to apply order.
Right.
Right? So, and to apply order means that everybody knows what's expected.
Right. I guess that's true.
So
let's remember, this is a handbook.
Right. And so if you know what's expected of you and what you're supposed to do, there's no surprises, right?
Yeah.
So if you're conscious of even the littlest detail of handing something to somebody, you're not
conscious about everything.
Yeah. Well, you're not just like, here, take this, and you whip it over with their,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that there is a proper way to hand something to somebody.
Right.
Even.
Right. Okay, quote, when handing an open book, magazine, or paper to another, be sure that the printed page is put before the recipient, not upside down, but in the proper position for her to begin reading at once. End quote. So I imagine that's for, like, when they're sitting around reading and they pass the book and, whatever. It's like,
or
don't
anything.
Here you go. Just flop the book on their lap. It just pass it. Like, if I wanted you to read this book, I know you ladies and gentlemen can't see what I'm doing, but I should pass it to you with it open to the page and
consider it so you can find direct. Like, the idea is to always be thinking about other people. Like, oh, you want this book, and you'd go, oh, here you go, and you flick it across the room.
Yeah. Well, and it's the whole point of just making somebody else's life easier.
Right. I mean, these are mine. And way lost. Like, who would even think about how to pass a book?
Right, exactly.
People don't think about this. Kids don't think about this. Nobody thinks about this.
Right.
Like, if you said, oh, hand me that book over there, and they go, what, you want this, Grandma? And they pick it up and fling it at you, You're like, no.
I mean,
go get that and hand it to me properly.
That's exactly it. you know, and I even think about when I'm reading this, try to remember these things when I'm with my children, to form them properly with these things before it's too late, because I can think many times I've asked my kids to, and I'm not talking about books, I'm talking about anything, to go get me something, and they throw it down on the table in front of me, and I'm like,
yeah.
can you pick that up and do that again, please? I mean, there's an instance where I made my son do something because of our podcast.
Because of the up and
Up
down?
and down, the sitting where we talked about in the one podcast with my grandmother.
Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, no, you can't pass me something like that. I said, go pick it up and bring it back. And I made him do it 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Until he, wiped the scowl off his face, the pouty face, until he did it appropriately.
Right.
You know? And I said, there, that's how you do something. Now, next time, do it right the first time.
Right. Right.
You know?
Absolutely. And
So,
these are the things that need to get done. Like, I mean, we're reading a book about how to pass another book to another, and we're thinking, you know, that's weird. Like, why do we need to know that? But
you do.
But you do. That's what makes a polite society. That's
Yeah.
what puts order in.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, quote, in handling to another such articles as knives and scissors, keep the sharp end toward yourself.
Yeah.
End quote. So therefore, if an accident happens, you're the one that's
You
stabbed.
get stabbed. No, but I mean, that's general
That's
safety.
just general safety, yeah.
I mean, I taught.
I mean, let's remember.
I taught food prep, and you never hand somebody a knife. Here's your knife.
But let's remember, isn't
scissors.
that one of the first things we teach kids when
It
they
is.
start using scissors? To carry them point down?
Yeah, but we're not teaching them for the sake of manners. We're teaching
them for safety.
for safety.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem, right?
Right there.
Yeah.
Okay, quote, be careful to avoid yawning or using the handkerchief violently when in the presence of others. These unpleasant habits, and to an even greater degree, the still more objectionable one of belching, mark one as being extremely ill-bred, end quote.
Yeah.
I really hope.
Yeah,
belching.
we've been around there a little. I've been, you know, like I've been places.
I can't imagine that you'd even see a nun belching.
No, I know. I know. That seems weird. But you know, but I mean, I've been places.
I mean, sometimes you do get, like, you drink a pop or something and you get that
no, I know, but
or whatever, and you kind of suppress it. You have to suppress it.
I know, but
people don't. I'm not talking about nuns here. I'm talking in the world.
in the world in general.
They don't suppress that.
The louder the better.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you know, and I've been places with people, and everybody thinks it's funny. You know, like not my family. My family never thinks that's funny.
No.
Or anything like that.
No.
Like
I
don't know.
Have that potty humor or whatever it's called.
Yeah, potty humor is exactly what it's called, and we don't have it.
Oh,
so
I just don't find it funny at all.
Yeah.
But like, be careful to avoid yawning. Like, that's a good one though, because you think about it, the world treats yawning as something totally natural, something that you have to do. You got to yawn, you know, whatever. But yawning is
like you're
a sign
boring
of,
me.
I mean, you do it because you're tired, but people do also yawn when they're bored, exhausted. There's many reasons. And when you think about it, I've been in situations where people are talking and I'm like,
I have to yawn.
I gotta yawn. I mean, I think you should politely cover your face or like suppress it. I mean, I do agree with that. Like, because I will tell you, I have been talking to people and they've yawned before. And the first thing that pops into my head is, am I boring you?
Am I boring you? I'm talking too much.
I'm talking too much.
I guess we need to call it a quits here.
And I mean, that is a good sign for yourself too.
Yeah.
Like to take those and be like, well, maybe I should stop talking. But it goes both ways. And I want to remember these things for myself. If someone's talking to me, trying very hard lately to give them my full attention, to not act like I'm put out and
or
just
bored.
to listen or bored. And if I feel a yawn coming on, I'm going to try really hard to suppress it or like cover my mouth or something, you know, or turn away. I don't know. I don't have to yawn right now, so I'm trying to think of how that would work. But
sometimes it's just usually
take
a
that
yawn.
as a good sign, Mom. I'm not bored.
Usually a yawn though is like you can't suppress those. Like they come and you're just like, because I've had them and I'm like trying not
and
to
you're
yawn.
really tired.
Really.
Okay, but I will say though, some people's yawns are a tad bit over the top. Yeah. They actually say the word. You know, and you're like, okay, you don't need to be so dramatic.
Right,
You know? That's I think that's another thing, is to not be so dramatic, you know. We can keep, my mom has one heck of a sneeze.
I do, and I
Oh,
yeah, it's
we're
there.
going into that. Here we go. Well, let's lead into coughing and sneezing, okay?
Yeah.
Or quote, coughing and sneezing may not always be prevented,
She's thinking
but
of my
one can
sneeze.
but one can always cover the mouth and control the noise. This covering of the mouth is necessary to prevent the contagion of colds, for an exposed sneeze sends out cold germs to a distance of as much as 15 feet.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have a very aggressive sneeze.
And my mom's is really aggressive to the point where
I scare everybody in the room.
And I told my husband, because I said, well, you know, when my mom sneezes, this was a long time ago, my husband was like, what do you mean when your mom sneezes? I said, well, we've never heard my mom sneeze. He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, well, I said, like, the next time you're around her, just wait. I'm sure she's going to sneeze around you eventually. And then I'll never forget it. You sneezed around him, and he just looked at me and he went, that was epic.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just like, right? I told you. It's just really loud. Like, you know, so.
Yeah,
anyways.
I'm gonna work on being more delicate.
You work on that,
more.
Mom, because you know
Choo-choo.
your contagion goes 15 feet when you do that.
I know, but see, these are old. Like, you know, everybody got all cuckoo over COVID.
Yeah.
But I mean,
this was when people had sense. It was like, yeah, you knew when you sneezed,
you know,
like fluff
people,
went into the air.
People didn't want your slobber all over them.
It was just a matter of manners. It wasn't, it wasn't a matter of quote unquote safety.
Right.
It was a matter of good manners. And you had to go, when I sneeze, nobody wants I call it the fluff that comes out, because I don't want to use some vulgar word, but you know, the fluff that comes out all over their face.
Right. And so, you know, so we say, look, cover your mouth.
Yeah. It was a matter of manners.
I mean, I'm pretty sure most people still do that.
No, I know they do, but what bothers me is that the world has taken it and they have twisted something that's supposed to be a manner and turned it into some virtue signaling safety protocol.
Yeah.
You know? It's just good manners.
Yeah.
Everybody
dive. Germs are in the air.
Okay, quote, if yawns cannot be suppressed, cover the mouth with the hand. Ooh, that's breaking the new age world right there.
Why?
You're supposed to go into your elbow now.
Right. Oh,
remember?
Yeah. Right.
You're not supposed to use your hand.
You're not supposed to use your hand.
That was the new age. That was the C word thing, you know? Go into your elbow. That's why I'm saying that.
I already said it, so
okay. Quote, try not to cause annoyance or inconvenience in lavatory or dormitory sections. Wash out tubs and basins thoroughly after using them and leave everything clean and in order. End quote. That is a really good one.
Yeah.
That is a really good one, and something that I think is, I know for myself, I'm going to have to redirect and try really hard for my children, especially young boys.
Yes.
When you go to the washroom, don't leave the washroom with your mess all over it.
Right, right.
You know, like, you have to understand that, there's not some, you know, magical fairy that comes in after every time somebody uses the washroom and cleans it.
Right.
And many people have to use the washroom.
Right.
And you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to extend this because I find too, I used to be very careless. And I'm going to be actually even embarrassed to say this, but I'm going to say it just to put it out there. This was a long time ago, but I was very grossed out by public bathrooms, right?
Right.
And I was very grossed out by the toilet paper in particular. The fact that whoever used the toilet paper before me touched the end of the piece that I'm about to use. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what I used to, I'm very embarrassed by this. I don't do it anymore. I used to pull off the toilet paper a bit and then take that piece and toss it on the floor. And be like, I'm not using it. Like, I'm mortified to even say it. I'm ashamed of myself that I did that. That's very rude.
Well,
because I was so concerned.
Who was your mother?
I know. Because I fell into the trap of the germs.
Yeah.
And I'll tell everybody, this was when I was away from the faith too. Okay.
Good. Phew.
Yeah.
We can blame it on that.
Well, no, because I was very selfish. I was very self-absorbed. I was like, I'm not having your germs on my piece that I'm about to use. So I would just rip it off, throw it on the floor. And I remember even telling somebody about this. They're like, yeah, that's so smart. Yeah, why would you want somebody's germs on your thing? and then it's when I came back and I'm trying to focus more on virtues and I went to do it.
Yeah.
And I stopped myself and I thought, what are you doing, you psycho?
Yeah.
Like, that is so rude. Somebody has to come in here and clean that up.
Yes, exactly.
That is literally somebody's job. And you're just throwing garbage on the floor just because it's a public washroom? And I say in my head, would you do that in your house?
No, you wouldn't.
No.
Right.
So, I think for myself, after coming to that realization, I'm very cautious when I go into a public restroom to be very considerate of the person that has to come and clean that restroom.
Or the person who comes after you.
Or the person who comes after you.
Like it's...
public restrooms, they don't pay somebody to go in the toilet after you use it.
Like...
Clean it fresh for the next person.
Like, how often have you gone into one and it's just been like, what the heck?
Like a bomb went off.
What the heck happened in here?
Well, now when I see that, all I think is, oh, yeah, some inconsiderate person like you left all their garbage on the floor. You know?
Where they're... And a lot of times, it's... they don't want to touch the toilet seats, and they don't want to do this, and they don't want to do that. And so what they do is they create a bomb, literally.
Right, because they don't, and I realize...
And so inconsiderate for the people who have to clean, and for the people that come after them.
And then, I got the point, I thought, you're just being very unvirtuous, and, just do what you got to do, and then go wash your hands.
And don't be so afraid of a germ.
Don't be so afraid of a germ, Holly,
You know me, I'm not afraid of germs.
No, I know. And that's why I don't even know where that came from. I mean, I guess since it makes you stupid.
Because...
But, yeah.
I mean, and I find that people who are afraid of germs are very inconsiderate
of around them.
Of others around them. Because,
totally.
Because why that is because they're so focused on them not getting a germ that they don't care.
About anybody else.
About what anybody else does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and at some point... As Catholics, we have to not care about germs because we have to say to ourselves, sometimes you get sick. And
sometimes you get sick.
And sometimes God just wants you to be sick.
And you know what? Again, moderation. Be just clean, moderate, hygienic people.
Right.
But don't take it to the extreme one way or the other.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I just, I think about that every time. Shake my head at myself. That's what I do. Bad.
Tisk, tisk, tisk. But the good news is,
I learned.
Here we are.
And here we are. And I don't do that anymore, everybody.
So here's the thing, that anybody can change. You can stop. Today it can be the day that you stop. And whatever.
Speaking of that, the other thing is not to get too, but not to flush things down the toilet.
And plug
when there's a visible sign that says, do not flush these things down the toilet. And ladies, you know what I mean. I'm not going to, if somebody has actually put a sign there and said it, be considerate and follow it.
Follow the signs.
Because I'll tell you, I used to think, oh, who cares?
Yeah.
What? Like, I didn't get it. But now I live in the country on a septic system.
Yeah.
And there's a very good reason why you don't flush those things down the toilet.
Yeah.
So just be considerate. If somebody tells you they want things done a certain way.
You can plug up things, and then people are for giving you the convenience to go to the restroom.
True.
People, now you've cost them thousands of dollars.
It's just
by your inconsiderate.
Yes, it is. Everything is a matter of consideration,
Yeah.
Okay, quote. In the dormitory at night, do not shake your habit and apron vigorously, for the flying dust is something of which your companions may justly complain. End quote.
Right.
Do not shake your habit and apron vigorously. The flying dust. Well, take it outside, I guess.
Well, I know it seems funny, doesn't it? But I mean, we can think of anything. Like, I got all this dirt here. Let me just shake it all over the place. Yeah. It's on a blanket, it's on a towel. Like, it's just kind of always comes back to being aware of your surroundings.
surroundings.
Don't, throw your dirt on other people.
Yeah.
Like,
Other people don't want your dirt.
other people don't want your dirt. Like, it's just consideration.
Okay, quote, if a sister has retired early or through illness, is confined to a bed in the dormitory, try to be as noiseless as possible in preparing for bed. On the other hand, if you have retired and your companions are careless about noise, refrain from any indication of impatience. Such an act of mortification is a good night offering, giving great pleasure to God. End quote.
Right.
Yeah, so both hands, you know?
What it's basically saying is be the one to sacrifice.
Yes. Yeah.
Regardless.
Regardless of the situation, yeah.
Right, what was the first one? If you
Well,
go to
the first
bed.
one was if somebody has gone to bed because
Think
out of
about them.
tiredness or illness, when
Think
you
about them.
yourself
Shh,
go to
shh,
bed,
shh.
don't make a ton of noise.
Don't say, well, that was stupid. They went to bed at 9. Who cares? Or 10 or
Well,
7.
I have to do that all the time with my kids because sometimes my husband works 12-hour shifts.
Yeah.
So that means he goes to bed at a time where everybody's still up. It's like 5 p.m., And I have to tell the kids, Dad's in bed. We have to be respectful of that. We have to be quiet. We have to not make noise. I'm like, well, it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, it doesn't matter what time it is. There's a reason he's in bed, and you have to make the sacrifice and just play a little quieter. Or don't run through the house like, it's just good manners.
Well, we had a family
run through the house anyways.
A family story that I used to hear all the time from my uncle that's deceased now, may he rest in peace, but about my grandfather cutting the grass and the neighbor coming in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And the neighbor coming over and ripping his head off.
Because he's cutting the grass.
Because the neighbor was
on nights.
Working midnights, right? So, I mean, obviously, if you're working midnights,
you don't get to dictate.
You don't get to do what
dictate grass in the middle of the afternoon.
Other people do, but maybe if you were a neighbor and you knew that it bothered him, you wouldn't do
that. You'd wait till, I don't know when you would wait then. The weekend, I guess?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, it's just going the extra mile.
Well, and it's called being attentive.
Yeah.
It's called being attentive to those around you.
And not being selfish.
I mean, obviously, if that's the only time you can cut your grass, he's going to have to deal with that.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, if you can, if you know
there's something you can do to make another person's life easier,
you should definitely
You should 100% do it. Like it's a virtue.
As long as it's not sin.
As long as it's not a sin.
If you wanted to steal some money because somebody was poor,
yeah,
to make their life easier, that you cannot do.
You cannot do that. You cannot but you can sacrifice yourself.
Yes.
At any given time.
At any given time. Okay, quote, be kind and courteous to the partner assigned you when you are outside the convent. Do not keep her waiting, or if you are obliged to do so, express regret and try to make some arrangement by which she will be spared further inconvenience. End quote. So yeah, I mean,
you don't get to pick your friends.
Yeah, I mean, you can be courteous to the partner assigned to you. You can put your husband in that spot. You can put your kids in that spot. You can put your mother in that spot. You can put your friends in that spot. Anybody in a given moment who has been
with the sisters, though. Right? They don't get to say who goes where.
No, I know. So they literally mean assigned to you, like
we had
mission or whatever.
We had 2 sisters come to us, and wherever they came from, they didn't come together. Okay, you 2 are going to Canada.
Yeah.
So now they're stuck with each other.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have a say. Well, there was someone else I liked.
Gel with sister so and so. Can I have somebody else? No, they don't get to say that.
They don't get to say that. They just get to say, blessed be God.
Blessed be God. Well, we've mentioned this story, and I know it's one of the ever popular ones of Saint Teresa. But how she used to go and stand at the wash pool.
Yeah.
Beside the nun that flicked her clothes so vigorously that she splashed her, and she purposely went early to get that spot.
To get annoyed.
And
not to get annoyed,
but to have that small offering and
to have something to offer up.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure she wasn't annoyed. Well, I bet you she wasn't annoyed at all.
Well, then why would she want the spot then?
Because she didn't like it, but she wasn't annoyed.
No, I know they didn't allow themselves to get annoyed.
Yeah.
She would purposely get wet.
Yeah, she would say,
she does. I'll take this.
That's kind of a bad habit. I'll just go there and take it so I can offer it up.
Well, and actually, I just thought of something so that somebody else doesn't have to endure that.
Yeah.
That's, that's the other reason too.
Yeah.
Because if she didn't go stand there, another sister would have to.
Right.
That's probably more, it's like, I'm going to take this so that somebody else doesn't have to.
Right.
So.
And again, all these things, manners, but also are the way to spread virtue.
Yes. Yeah. That it lets the grace flow,
And back to it being a hero, not a zero.
Yeah.
When you do these things, right? When you become these people of order and discipline and manners, your children see that, right? And you're teaching your children, but they can come back and they can say, "Oh, my mother would never do that."
Yeah. They will see
my dad
that.
would never do that.
They will see that. Yeah.
They will see it, and that's really, really, how you allow, most importantly, grace to flow, example to be shown,
Yeah.
and
yeah, and that's the thing. That's just the thing, because there are things about my mother, there are things about my grandmother, particular things that I can think of off the top of my head. And I would say, I know my mother would never do that.
yeah,
I know my grandmother is always impeccably on time.
Yeah.
Without a fail.
Yeah.
Like that is one thing that she has stuck by her entire life.
Yeah.
She detests being late. She detests being, like that it may put somebody out, or that, she's not on time. I don't know what her reasons are, but I'm sure they're good, because she's always on time.
Right.
But I'm just using an example that if you value these virtues and these good manners, those are the things your children will pick out from you.
And they will follow.
I mean, because, I can be late.
Yeah.
But I detest it too.
Yes.
And I think that is because I spent so much time with my grandmother.
Right.
Choir practice every week.
No, I can't stand to be late.
I can't stand to be late. I have to be early, for everything, because I just cannot be that person that's late.
Yeah.
And so I picked that up from her, know. What I picked up from my mother? I don't know.
The gift of the gab.
Gift of the gab. No, it's a little, I would say if you weren't here, but it's a little awkward to say when you're here. I don't want to make you cry.
Good, don't make me cry.
I'm just teasing. But anyways, yeah, so we did finally finish that section.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, so that was the end of that particular section. So next week, God willing, we will be back with manners with externs. So maybe like people outside of the convent.
Externs must be like normies or something,
Well, no, because this is written for the nuns. So
yeah, no, I know.
It said manners among ourselves, so that
Yeah.
means in the convent, and then they're going to go in to how they treat people of the outside world.
Externs must be their term for everyday normal people.
I can't wait to get to this next one too.
Why?
Acting as hostess. No, like I'm saying there's manners with externs, and then the next subsection is acting as hostess, writing letters. Ooh, manners in chapel.
Ooh.
There's some really good ones coming up, ladies and gents. And so keep your seatbelts fastened. Anyway, so we'll leave it there. And yeah, God willing, we will be back next week. So, but until then, we hope you all have a very blessed week. May our Lord bless you and Our Lady guide you always. And Saint Teresa, pray for us.